Good morning, good morning, good morning again. We have made it back. Alrighty. Did I push something I wasn't supposed to here or what? Apparently I bumped the screen some way, somehow. But anyhow, Big L's project. Well, if you haven't taken a guess yet, it involves a case with a really big meter on the front. Okay, now, yeah, this has an interesting backstory. Okay, and the reason why we've got this laying here, this cabinet actually used to be an old heat kit. I'm not sure which model. As we get this pulled apart here. Because this takes a lot of explaining to go along with everything that's here. Okay, so what I have here, this was a donor radio. Unfortunately, there's something wrong with it. So that's kind of where we're at on that. However, instead of spending hours trying to figure out what was wrong with this, this actually is what came out of it. This is actually supposed to be a Galaxy 88 in this big case. Well, the 88, as the story goes, the radio was already completely up and functional, and the gentleman that had it prior to Big L getting it back had dropped a screwdriver in it. And I've heard this story many times over the years. Unfortunately, believe it or not, that's actually happened to me back many years ago. And henceforth, that came about me getting insulated screwdrivers. So, because I mean, it does happen. Accidents do. The board has some bad spots on it. I mean, it was just a headache waiting to happen. So we went ahead and pulled this out. I went ahead and tested his original one, or spare, I should say, and it's got a lot of issues as well. So I got on the horn. I talked to one of my buddies and told him what I needed, and he scratched his head and he thought a little bit. And long story short, very good friend of mine actually had one on the back shelf that had been sitting there for several years. So I told him, look, it doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to, have a nice bezel, or, the knobs have to be just perfect or anything like that. I just need a good functioning Galaxy 88. So that's actually what we have here in the background. Before I went ahead and went live, I went ahead and hooked it up just to confirm that, we've got decent receive, transmits, all the anemones function as they should. So what it is that is actually going to be a transplant that's going to go back into this cabinet. Yeah. So you guys can probably tell it's going to create a lot of work. Number one, we got to go ahead and make sure that the chassis is mounted, obviously. We're going to go ahead and redo everything and put him a regular power supply in there and pull all the knobs. We'll get everything figured out as far as what goes where and how. He's already got everything, cut out for the switches, for the band switches, for the frequency counter. I'm not sure. I know he wants me to actually just get this up and running for him and get all the all the preliminary work taken care of, and then I think he's planning on actually finishing it out himself from that point forward. So that's where we're at right at the moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and start moving some stuff out of here, and like I said, I'll show you guys the other radio here real quick, and then we're gonna start disassembling it. I'm also gonna take a look at the cabinet as far as with what I've already taken out. Like I said, we got to figure out what needs to go where. Some of it, like for example, he's already got the channel selector already figured out that he wants it over here, but I got to know what all these other knobs. I know this was supposed to be for your main power as far as to turn it on and off over here, but we got to know what all the double and single knobs that he's got taped up, because nothing at this point, at least as of yet, is marked. So what I'm going to do as we go through this, we start pulling the knobs off and start actually getting a placement for everything. One of the things I'm going to do for him is I'm going to take my label maker and I'm going to make him small little labels so that everything's marked, so everybody knows what it is. And then, I'm under the impression he's going to go ahead and disassemble it, and like I said, and do the the final work to it as far as putting in some kind of a cover for the frequency counter and for this. I'll get with him at that point when we get to that stage. So I do like the idea of the great big meter. That's something everybody loves, big meters. But I'm hoping that I can still utilize a few pieces that are already mounted in here, and unfortunately, some of this is not plug and play. Wires will have to all be extended, which means a lot of fitment. So it's not something I'm gonna sit down and do the entire thing in 1 day or 2 days. I'm gonna work on this off and on over the next few weeks, and we're gonna make some headway yet this evening on it. Let's get some of the stuff here out of the way. Oops. Put this back in the box for Big L. Essentially everything that we don't need up here, we're going to set off to the side. And kind of go from there. Okay, so I'm going to start by just peeling this stuff here off. I know I put that on there just to make sure that he doesn't lose anything. But for us to get in here, we're going to have to start doing some of it. I know that from what I can tell, just looking at the back, I know this is the primary on and off, but like I said, we're going to pull that out and, for the most part, pull everything out. I think the only thing I'm going to actually probably leave is going to be the frequency counter. I think everything's okay with it from what I've seen when it was originally powered up, and the channel selector. So those are probably the only two that I'm actually going to leave in there. And then the rest of this, like I said, we're going to completely rework. Fun times, guys. Fun times. Let's leave that one. There we go. Yeah, I can't say I've ever taken an amplifier case and turned it into a radio, but I have taken other radios and merged them into other formats. So this will definitely be a first. At least the chassis is nice and light. Let's see here. I think I got a Ziploc baggie up here somewhere. This is the last thing I want to do is lose one of these. Practically impossible to find. Boy, you said it. This one will definitely test me. This way I've got kind of a clue of what he's got going on here. Well, hello, Charles. Good evening time or good morning. Okay, so volume and squelch. Yeah, as I pull the rest of this apart, I'm going to try to take my best estimated guess of what originally was what. You know, I can put it back kind of like it was. Come on, baby, get in there. Like I said, I just know I got to get some kind of a bearing on it, so things I let people talk me into. Right, Charles? Okay, volume and squelch. Okay. Skip out there. Nobody on 23. Nobody on 28. Oh my God. Of all radios to put into an ICOM 736, a 122. Yeah, that's just crazy. Okay. I'm done. I'm not even going to worry about saving those screws. But I know this thing's got good modulation and decent output power. Hello, popcorn. You have brilliant ideas. Well, some ideas are good. Some are great on paper. Some are terrible when you got to actually do them. I spent like 5 days this last week, guys, doing a job that makes me wish I was back in the shop full time. Here, let me show you. Let's get to pictures. Let's see, too far back. Where are they at? Ah, here we go. All right. So this is the lovely stuff that I was waiting in. Let's go to work. Last Monday. This was how I spent my Monday. That's how deep that stuff was. So we had to go. Yeah, at least that's something nice to look at, right? So now imagine, if you will, an area that's about 20 feet long by about 30 or 40 feet wide. You have to climb down a ladder. Matter of fact, you can see the conveyor system. That carries out the old metal. But anyways, I got the fun job of wading through that. Why? Because a pump went out. Yeah. 5 days later, I finally got that mess cleaned up off the floor. We got it sucked up out of the building. I had to put a shut. Oh yeah, it was nasty. That was oil and coolant, is what that was. But yeah, doo-doo lake. Yeah, yeah. So I earned my money. But when you work in maintenance, and when something catastrophic, and the only reason why I wound up falling into getting elected to do this job was just so happened one of the hydraulic lines, return lines, had plugged up. Well, had the pump, whenever I went through and I had to fill up the tank that actually is down in the pit, as we call it. Okay, well, there's actually a fill valve where you don't even have to go down in there to do this. You just hook up the hose to it and pump away. 300 or 400 gallons later, you're ready to go. So it's like, okay, no biggie. So I hooked it up and I let it run for about 20 minutes, and then the pump started acting and making some weird sounds. And I thought, it must be over full. Even though I looked at it and it said, I seen how much was still left, and it's like, nah, this shouldn't be. So I shut it off and decided to go down and do a visual check. Well, because I did that, I wound up with that particular job to clean up and to repair that issue as well. Now, here's the part that everybody that has ever worked a night shift job can definitely fall into the same category with me and definitely can understand. They knew about it like 2 weeks ago. Had I not opened up that door and had that pump not made the weird gurgling sound, like it was trying to back up from the fill tank, I would have never known about it, and it would have went on for God knows how long. So, yeah. Well, now mind you, there's like two guys. One that specializes in electrician, as an electrician. The other one is me. Okay, well, me covers basic electrical and anything to do with mechanical. So, well, that left only one person to do the job. Now, you go to day shift, and they have four little Indians, and they have like three supervisors. We have two people and one advisor. So, to run an entire plant. And that's not even counting on day shift, where they've got all the extra help for, oh, Lord. I'm even trying to think here. They've got about anybody, basically about anybody that you need as far as that goes for any kind of a catastrophe. They've got on day shift, and on nights, it's just three guys. So you can imagine, how hectic my last week was, and it's going to be just as fun here going into the next couple of weeks as well. So, yep. So fun. All right, so the next one up is supposed to be an echo, looks like. That would have been the last day. Well, there's a catch. There's actually a way around that if you're in a situation where you have to actually clean something that is like that is less than desirable. Now, if you go back in through some of the history that makes up my life, now one of the companies that I have worked with and worked for, I've had two very unique jobs. One of which was back in high school, and right there at the tail end of high school, going in and then going into the normal workforce. But no, I actually started out working in a mortuary. So that was my very first job, was working in a morgue. Now, between that and one of the other jobs that I have had in the past, unfortunately, they were both two of the best jobs as far as financially, which was working for the mortuary, and one of them I did here several years ago, which was we actually went and took care of, well, either A, accident scenes, or B, murders, essentially. Or if somebody had passed away in their home and we had to go in and take care of the decomposed body. Okay, well, that's something that is, definitely interesting. Well, anyways, going back to that, between the mortuary, which was actually quite pleasant, believe it or not, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that you were in a climate-controlled area and things like that, and you didn't have things that had been festering for a while. But one of the best things to ever keep with you at all times, if you are in a situation where something like that's going to happen, carry you a bottle of Vicks Vapo Rub. Vicks Vapo Rub works wonders for a lot of different situations. Make sure you line the inside of your sinuses. and put it either on your upper lip or on the inside of the mask. Um, quite frequently keep that well greased, if you will, and that actually takes care of some of the odoriferous odors that would otherwise make you want to vomit. So it's one of the little snippets that, like I said, really does make a huge difference um, with what things are. So yeah, like I said, I have done some very interesting things in my life. Okay, might gain an RF gain. Oops. But anyways, both jobs actually paid very, very well. The only downside to it, besides the job itself, was the only time I got to get paid. The only time I got paid was when somebody died. So, it wasn't, either that or when we had, things to take care of. So, it was quite difficult to actually, make good money. Yeah, you made good money, but it might be a couple of days, might be a week, it might be a month before you get called for one of those calls. Um, you know, but both of them, like I said, paid really good. If it was something that I could do every day, you know, it paid well enough that, I would be very well into the 6-digit figures with no problems, every year, if I could go to work 5 days a week, basically. All right, so what do we got here? One, two, three, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So this was the band select. So like I said, these are just notes, as all these are for the time being. Okay, and that's going to be the clarifier. I know some of these are just dummy knobs over here. Okay, so all three of these were just dummy knobs. These are just hole fills, is all these are. All right, so that helps out a lot. All right. This all put together, and then we'll figure out what's going on with the other. Okay. Where'd the little baggies go? Yeah, everything's been moved around here on the workbench. I've been trying to slowly get stuff put back. Definitely don't want to lose any of the shims or anything like that. So we don't know what we're going to need until we get everything going back together. Wow, 7 people at 2:30 in the morning. we're just going to redo all this. Yeah, we'll throw it in the box for now. We can always throw things away as we go along. But yeah, whenever I agreed to take this in, I mean, I told him ahead of time, this would be a project. I will be happy to help you out, but it will have to be based on something that I can do a little here and a little there. So. I was hoping to leave some of this stuff, if that was at all possible, but gee-oh. Not sure what I'm going to get into on some of this either. I will bet you it'll be a lot more organized when I'm done. Yay! It's a spider! Oh, just kidding, guys. Like I said, sometimes you got to put a little humor in there. Okay. So what else can we... Okay. So much stuff that's intertwined. I gotta figure out where that went. And there it is. Okay. Now, one of the other things I've got to try to figure out too here in the next few days is what I did with the remote for the AC. Oh. Well, thank you, Lord. Yeah, let's see here. I should kick it off. At least not. We thought it should have anyhow. We're back on the 5P to 5A. Well, unfortunately, I've never lost that. You're off tonight trying to stay up. One of them LRSs. What the heck is an LRS? Well, Dallas, the Galaxy 88 is actually going to be stripped down to the chassis, and this actually used to be an old Heath kit. Is what this once upon a time was. The gentleman that owns this actually, I know bits and pieces of the backstory on it, which you'll probably have to watch the first portion of this if you just tuned in. But essentially what it amounts to is it was in for repair at another gentleman's place, and he had accidentally dropped a screwdriver in it. Well, before the guy that was working on this had got it finished, he had passed away. So, the radio was damaged. It didn't work. And I was asked if I could fix it. Well, I took about an hour and I looked at it. And if you've watched about the last 5 minutes here, you've seen where I've been disassembling and pulling all the other old wiring and stuff out. So a lot of the wiring was cut, was extended to go ahead and fit everything that's in the front of this. But our task, since the other radio had some bad spots on the circuit board, some of it was from glue, some of it was from where a screwdriver had been dropped into the radio. Just multiple different things. It was just, to me, I saw it as more of a headache to try to go ahead and repair it. So we found a donor, which is what I'm taking apart right now. And we found a good working donor, and we're going to go back and lengthen the wires. We'll mount the chassis, and we're going to re-extend stuff and go away from what the original wiring looked like that I just pulled out. So, as we go along, like I said, I'm going to pull what I can out and try to match up to some of the locations that I've already marked as far as based on, what I could figure out that where each one of these originally was placed. So, that's all this is right now as far as the notes that are on there, is they're just placeholders. Yeah, the disassembly. Some of it I just had to say to heck with it, just pull it all and be done. But yeah, Dallas, I just stay on my same routine. Since I typically work, I usually work 12 days a week. Which means I only get every other weekend that I'm off. So, I have to take care of everything for myself and still maintain stuff here at the shop. So, very, very little time is spent for me, generally speaking. It's spent working. Okay. So, when I'm not too far behind, I actually still enjoy doing what I'm doing right now. This is actually supposed to be my therapy, if you will, or therapeutic in nature. All right, so I'm not going to need that anymore. I'm going to set this off to the side for the moment. And I can turn that power supply off. Yeah, that's basically what we're doing. There's enough room in there, and I'm not sure, but I think they had some kind of a power supply already in there, or had everything started for that. There will be a power supply in it when it leaves, as far as that part's concerned. But yeah, basically, we're building a Galaxy 88 base station. but it is definitely Frankenstein style. Okay. Just want to pull it out a piece at a time so I can kind of see how this thing unfolds before I get too wild and crazy. Well, damn it, Charles, you're supposed to leave that up there long enough for me to at least see what it said before you retract your message. Well, I've been in the hobby about 27 years. Been a ham for the last 20 or 21 years. It's been something that I have literally stuck with, thick and thin. It all started, as far as where I am today anyways, it all started with, me peeking and tuning a couple of radios way back in the day. And, things just kept progressing. The only thing I wanted to do originally was do the modifications, because I always liked that, and that was always cool. See the variable wattage and some of the other stuff. I didn't really want to ever get into the repair side of it. Unfortunately, getting into the repair side of things, kind of, it was one of those where, it kind of came with all the other, and one thing led to another, and I learned about this and I learned about that, and then learned about something else, and it kept evolving and escalating. And next thing I knew, I had 16 or 17 radios from different people sitting all over creation back in my living room whenever I was first single. And it just turned into a job. It's been a job, it's been a hobby, it's been a job, it's been a hobby. It's just went back and forth. I've done this for, before I went back to work for this one company. I was doing this out of the shop here for, several years. and that's all I did was just radio repair and amps, and now that I've got a pretty good company that I'm working for, other than the fact that they just work you to death. Um, which, I mean, part of that too is, I've got insurance now and all the other good stuff that comes with, those kind of perks as well. But, this job is, if you do this full time, I mean, this job is feast or famine. Um, some of it has to do with the economy, which I know back in 2007, 2008, thankfully, because I did do this for so many years prior to that, it actually helped, me make it through, that rough period. I was actually surprised at how many people were still willing to spend, money for, radio repairs and things like that when there was very, very little work available to a lot of us. I mean, it wasn't just Hoosiers. I mean, it was, people out west. That's actually where I was at during that time frame. So I was out west in Oregon. I like both. I'm not going to lie. I like both, and I enjoy, I enjoy both sides of the hobby in relationship to that. The 11 meter. One of the nice things about it is the fact that people are a lot more relaxed. Going into that portion of it, I think people are more relaxed with the 11 meter, and people are more themselves. I still enjoy the amateur side of things as well, but it's not as formal. Okay. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to get time. I'm hoping to get enough stuff caught up here fairly soon where I can go ahead and start doing some work to my other tower and get potentially another base set. That's kind of my goal anyways, is I've got another base that I want to get set for some other radio equipment and everything, but just haven't had the time. It's been spent right here. Ta-da! Another piece of the puzzle. Okay. Suppose that inside that box. Turn on my desoldering station here. Get it apart and clean it here real quick. Yeah, it's full. All that came out of an amplifier that I've worked on over this weekend. over this last week, I should say. And there's the last of it. She's been a pretty good old girl. I've had that desoldering station now for like 15 years. It's almost as old as my Weller soldering station. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I would like to go ahead and upgrade myself on the license, but you know, again, I'm pretty tied up with what I've got going on here. Yeah, the 2 meter, 10, 11, 2. Those are three of them that I really do like. The other one that's called the Magic Band, which, I mean, everybody says the conditions have not been favorable for that right now, is the 6 meter. And now I really enjoy, or did in the past anyways, I've got to go back and either buy one or make one. I'll probably buy one just because of time restraints. But I'd like to go ahead and get another 6-element beam and get it put up. But 6 meter is actually one of my favorites. I actually like it even better than 10, which I have only used. I've only actually wound up making like one contact on 10 meter in 20 years. There's almost never anybody on 10 meter. That's just like 12 meter. It's almost a worthless band. I never hear anything on 12. Okay. So we've got green. I'm guessing that's an orange. Yellow, blue, black. know the way they had this set, which I really wish they would have left more of the actual base. I mean, I understand why they cut it out like they did, but I really wish they'd have left like, another quarter or 3/8 of an inch around the outer edge of it. That really would have, helped as far as with giving a little more support. But we've got the one on the back, we've got a spot on the side, and then over here, I don't think they had anything. But I'll come back off of one of these top front corners, and I'll put a small little mounting tab to go ahead and give it some support over here as well. It is lower and upper. You'll make more contacts typically on your lower side. At least that's what I'm thinking. I may have to go back because it's been several years since I've actually been able to, do anything like that. So, all right, let's get these figured out here where they're going. Okay, so these are going to the big long plug. Let's see. So we're going to call that one orange. So green, orange, yellow, blue, black. And we're going to start with green. And I've got a few of the colors here. Pretty decent selection. And I've got spare spools whenever I'm running out. Let's see. So, green, orange, black. So black is nothing more than a ground. I'll go ahead and just give me one of all three of those. Well, I can work this one out of the mess. For the time being, I'll just solder it back in place. I'll have to go back and pull up the schematic on it because I think what it is they've just undone the other side of this because it's missing a wire. If I remember right, that is for the talkback circuit. So we'll worry about that a little later. let's see. Yeah, you'd be. I mean, that's just it. A lot of people, I think, would be surprised if they really got down to it. Um, I don't run hardly any more than what you actually have. Um, as far as for myself, which I've got a Galaxy 959 that I use, and I've got it set up with the direct inject. And I do enjoy that. Now, part of it, the reason why I'm actually using the direct inject, even, which man I do enjoy. Don't get me wrong, but the main reason has to do with the fact that I can key it with my foot, so my hands are always free. If I could just get rid of that stupid fly, it's been in here for the last half hour bugging me. Move that stuff down a little further. That way it doesn't keep getting. Got him. Well, basically, it is taking nothing more than a microphone itself, that's designed for. My brain's about half dead tonight. Um, basically, it's running rack gear. Kind of like what you would use either for an auditorium or for church or something of that nature. You're using your typical vocal microphones, and what you're doing is you're actually injecting that signal directly into the board. You're actually bypassing the original amplification circuit, and you're using everything external. Now, some people use like the iPad audio for that. In some cases, they're using, like me, I'm actually using a physical mixing board. But I'm kind of the old school. I'm kind of the old school guy on that. I actually prefer to do it, the hard way, I guess. But it's just one of those that you plug your microphone into, and then you take it, and it gets, like I said, literally wired directly into it. Where, like I said, you're bypassing that. But what it allows you to do is to go in and you can actually tailor your audio a little bit better, as far as on your high end for the higher frequencies, and also for the lower frequencies. So some of these guys that you hear, for example, Sparkplug down in Florida, he's a good one for that. Motormouth Mall, obviously. If you've ever heard them into your receive, they're typically running, the high fidelity, transmit and receive. Charles, every radio I've ever done for him, he still says it, but it's one of those that he asks for that on every radio that he ever has set up. And as far as on the at least on the receive side. But doing it on the receive side, it allows the radio itself, which most CBs are typically designed to where you're only going to hear frequencies up to uh, about 250 hertz is usually the general cutoff as far as on the low end frequency. On the top end, depending on which radio it is, you're looking at around 2,500. Um, as far as on the lower portion of it, about 2,500. Some radios will go up as high as 3,500. Um, but for the ones that typically are incredibly narrow banded, like I said, where they're only doing about 250 to about 2,500, the human voice, for example, like a woman, her average voice can typically hit between 800 to 1,000 hertz. Well, you've got your higher frequencies that go up even higher than that still are able to be audible toned for the human ear. And, by having some of the capacitors and some of the circuitry worked, it'll allow you typically to go up to about 48, anywhere from 48 to 5,000 is what most of the tests that I typically do. Some of them will go as high as 6,000. And then on the low end, I don't typically try to soup them up to the point where they're hearing all the way down into the 30s and 40s, but I do like to try to hit about 60 hertz as far as on the low end. But that gives the receive side of it a lot more depth. And if you are able to receive that kind of depth, that's what you're going to also hear whenever some of the other stations that are using the high fidelity setup, it's sounding like you're sitting inside of an auditorium or sitting inside your car, with a good radio that's in there that has, the high end speakers, and, you get a lot more depth throughout the entire conversation. And if you get used to that, you really don't like to go backwards on it. For those that have never done it, I try to warn them ahead of time. Be patient. It's going to take you, a few days or a week or so to kind of get used to it. The other side of that too, whenever you have your radio wide banded on the audio, as far as not necessarily the receiver, but the audio that is accompanied with the transmitted signal. When you have it wide banded, where you're able to actually hear those. Like I said, everything else kind of sounds monotone, but you'll also be able to tell whether somebody's actually got a really good clean radio, and you'll also be able to tell the really, really crappy tuned radios. I know there's several that have their radios already set up that way, and they can tell you the same thing. From the limiters that are cut and they've got everything cranked to heck won't have it. You'll hear some of those people that they don't sound too bad, but then when you have a radio that's got the wide receive in it, it's like, oh my God, do they really sound like that? Yeah, they do sound that bad. Yeah, I know you won't go back. I'm trying to think how long. Geez, because I've done radios for you, Charles, for so many years. I can vaguely remember how far back, but I think I set your first radio up as far as for the receiver side of it like that. Um, and it was a whole different experience. you know. I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than that. It's an entirely different experience. Sadly, I'd love to go all the way down into here, but I don't have the specialized connectors. So unfortunately, we're going to have to kind of do this the hard way. Yeah, I remember here. It's been 3 or 4 years ago. I did a Cobra 1000, and the radio is just absolutely gorgeous. And unfortunately, it was in too bad a shape as far as on the board, where it had one too many golden screwdrivers, and unfortunately, the board was just too far gone. So the owner asked me, he said, well, he said, is there anything we can do? He said, man, he said, I really don't want to give up the radio. He said, I like the radio. I'd love to have it going. So told him, I said, well, I said, with all the features that you've got, I said, one of the best things we can do is take a good working Cobra 29 and, move it on into the, into the radio. So, that's what I wound up doing for him. And last I know, or knew anyways, he actually still has that radio and is still using it to this day. But it's got a complete new heart transplant. But it looks pretty close to original on the inside. I still had to make a few minor changes because the boards are very similar, but they're also different. Now in this case, I don't know which one of you said it, but one of you said it, I think, the best. Here we're just dealing with, Frankenstein. you know, I don't like the way that one looks. There we go. That makes me a little happier. Okay. Cheat just a little bit. Actually, before I do that, since I've already got a wire cut for the length, I'm going to go ahead and cut those two. So we need a yellow and a blue. Yeah, I found a company here about 15, 16 years ago that actually had this small wire. It's actually a higher grade wire than what's inside the radio, but it's the right gauge. I buy it in small 100-foot rolls for $8, $9 a roll plus my shipping. And the guys at work, I drive them crazy whenever I go to solder wires because they see me hold a wire and they say, "Why don't you put that in a set of helping hands or a vise?" I said, "Why? Why do I need to pull all that stuff out whenever I can just hold it and do it all in one shot?" But it still drives them bonkers because they see me do that. Okay. Let's get this turned around here. Get a little more length here out of everything. Okay, that way I know those are all associated with each other. Now we can pull this out here a little bit. Hello, Gary. I see you popped in. if you guys aren't on my Facebook page, you guys need to send me a friend request or something. Okay, so we got that. It's a little bit heavier gauge, not much, but just a little bit since this is for the main power. Well, I posted a few pictures on Facebook for those of you that aren't following me on Facebook, but I did make some pretty decent progress here on the power supply. Take just a second here. Get this camera to turn. Where you guys can kind of see what that thing's looking like. Let's see here. I don't have time for Facebook. Yeah, I hear you. Twelve-inch lift. Yeah, you seen it. But like I said, it's coming along pretty good. I've had all this stuff sitting all over the place, which, like I said, I've only got a couple of them made, but I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of a, preview of what the overall is. But yeah, for right now, I've got 6 modules in there, and I may actually just stop at the 6 instead of putting the 7th one in. I've still got to do all the unitized as far as plug in for all the load sharing and everything and what have you. But you can kind of tell with just looking at the one side with what we've got going on here. I've got it wired up to the one contactor over here. This side will go over here to this contactor. Now the meters, it's kind of neat. Now I didn't do volts and amps as far as for the AC side, but I did do voltage with the frequency. So I wanted to see what frequency that was coming into the house and going into the main power supply. So that's part of the reason why I've got the 2 different meters that's going on that you're seeing here. But I thought that was kind of a neat little thing. I wanted to do something a little different, but I've already got the neon. It's already installed as far as around the outer edge. And I went ahead and talked myself into it. I went ahead and put the wheels on it. That way I can actually move this thing around in the shop while I'm doing what I got to do. I need the room. I am out of room. I've been for some time. Alrighty, so let's get back to work. I've still got radio to try to work in sometime this week for Charles yet. Well, thank you. Charles, I don't know what you keep retracting. Damn it, you don't let me see it. You don't leave it up there long enough for me to see it. Least you could do is at least text it to me. Yeah, that is 6 modules right now. Yep, so 6 100 amp mean wells are in it. Originally, I was going to try to do 8. If the cabinet would have been a little taller, I could have easily got by with that. But where I want to put the cabinet at, I can still go back and I can still make it 7. So I can make it a 700 amp power supply fairly easy. Been fat fingering your phone. Yeah, that ain't all you've been fat fingering. Oh. Okay. Let's get back to work. So another couple wires, looks like an orange one and another red one. Just need to go off of that. Okay. And I'm going to wind up cutting this one back off, but I need to know that these two go together. So do that down there. So I can get some of the stuff here out of my way and keep going. Well, Gary, I had to read that one 3 times before it clicked. At least it wasn't snagged on phonics. Yeah, a very good friend of mine many, many years ago used to go by Catfish. He actually did some of the old joke tapes for the truckers and stuff from Laughing Hyena. You know, that was kind of his things. He had some bootleg tapes, and then he had some of the originals. And just a really, really funny guy. Great to be around. I still miss him as far as on that part. I wished he was still around because, he was just a all around funny guy. Definitely the comedian. Quite literally. But he actually lived about 20 miles from me. Of course, this was back before CDs actually existed. But he was an over-the-road truck driver for many, many years, and that was, I don't know where he came up with some of the different things that he came up with. I mean, some of them were just reworks, and some of them weren't. But he would use a lot of everyday life situations. That he would talk about as far as out on the road, and things that he'd seen and what have you. But he also had a very animated face. So whenever he would be telling you these jokes, you just, even if you didn't want to listen, you couldn't help but stay right there and stay engaged in the entire conversation. It was actually a great thing to be, But with all the new modern technology that we've got now, had that been available at that time, he could have really made an incredible go at it, I think. But unfortunately, cancer got the better of him. some point I'm going to have to find those tapes. I know I've got them put up out in the garage, but I'm also going to have to find me a cassette tape. Let's see. Was he the one that did the boat ride? I think that's what they called it, was boat ride. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one. You do realize, though, that you're also dating yourself, right, Gary? With the macho, yeah, with the macho man. Oh my God. Yeah, he was another one, man. Yeah. Well, Catfish um, had that same type of humor. Um, whenever you listen to him, like I said, he had that same very type of humor. And for whatever reason, I mean, it was not necessarily dark, but it was kind of a dark humor. Um, but yeah, that was just, yeah, that's still one of my all-time favorites. You gonna go for wide with me, please? Yeah, you can actually find, um, yeah, you can actually find that on YouTube. That's actually, there's a couple different people that's got that downloaded, and you can actually find, you can actually find that uh, little skit. I'll tell you another one that was actually quite funny. That's kind of in the same ballpark, believe it or not. Richard Pryor. He actually kind of falls in that same category, believe it or not. The things that you talk about at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to do something a little different on that one. Since that goes to a different connector altogether, all right. So if I wind up with a snag or something, I can take that one apart, move around. Okay. Grab another one of those. Well, Gary, you just happen to be the same age I am. Had no clue. Yeah, buddy. You know, it don't seem like it's been that long ago either. You know, when you start looking back at like some of the crazy antics and some of the stuff we did as teenagers and where we're at today, it's like, oh my God, are we really that old? Okay. I think what I'm going to do is bring that in and around to the other connector. Let's flip this over, get this out of the way. bifocals on. Add an extra 1.5 inches because I can always cut off easier than I can add back on. Okay. Figure out how this is all laying so that I know which way to go with it here. The reason why I'm putting this on the other side of the connector is because of where I know that the display for the frequency counter and everything, it's going to also have to come forward as well. So with that being the case, if I put it on this side, I know that I'll be okay, because it'll give me that extra little movement that I'm going to need. Okay. One down, 5 million to go. Or 4,599,000 or 499, something like that. Whatever it is, 999. Yeah, I'd love to have had a 78 T-top like that myself. I tried like crazy. Yeah, one of my all-time favorites is the 67 GTO. That's one of my favorites. Never got to own one, but still one of my favorites. And of course, I had back in high school. I mean, I had a 74 Camaro and loved that old car. I had a 71 Mustang, which that's the long nose body. And I'll tell you what, that thing was beautiful, sweet to drive. Okay, so set that off to the side. And we'll start with a brown wire. Yeah. Okay. Also going to need a black one.
The old Craco with the K40 antenna.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things, you know. If we could have afforded to have kept some of the cars we had back in high school, they are worth today. Yeah, once in a while I'll get on Marketplace and I'll sit there and looked and looked and looked. And, I still miss the days of having the old 74 Camaro. Definitely say that I miss those old days. Best part about it, though, when I was 16, 17 years old, you could sit there and get by for, that minimum wage job that you worked out of high school. And, you still felt rich because, you could still go and do a lot of different things that you wanted to. And, no bills basically because we're still living at home with mom and dad. Where did we all go wrong? Okay. Definitely a lot simpler time back then. Kick back, Definitely a different way of life back then.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably could have on the old square bodies. I had one of those too.
Damn, you must be tall. Okay. All right, so green and white. Gray. Don't know that I've got gray. I might have. Bear with me here, guys. Get another black. I'm gonna need it. Another black, which I think that one was solid. Six three. Yeah, that's true. You know, I'm 5'10", and you know, sometimes it's still kind of difficult. There we go. There's some gray. one of those I need to go through some of this other stuff too and see what I've got. I know this radio doesn't have a lot of gray, but I actually have that roll set back aside for something totally different. All right. I'll shut that off for right now. Okay, but instead of running both of those all the way up there, I'm actually going to tie them together back here because these were both on the same pin up here. So I'm just going to tie here and just take one wire up to the switch. There we go. Make my life a little easier doing it this way. No, I don't have a promised date. If I take something like this in on a project, um, I, basically give you, I usually, if I do something like this, I tell them, well, give me at least a year. And I know that sounds far off, but, when you get into something like this, it's one of those that it's very difficult to charge somebody because if I charge him my hourly rate as far as for the shop, it really isn't practical. Granted, now some people will still pay it. That's not a problem, but in good conscience, some things you just can't charge enough for, no matter what the circumstance. So, this is one of those where, I'll take it in, I'll go ahead and do it. Yeah, he would have liked for me to have started in on it, the same week I took it in. But, the reality of it is, like I said, with the amount of time that it takes, we're just now on our second switch. just trying to get everything lined out and try to get things, to coincide with each other on this. Um, as far as the, you know, optimal goal with this, the biggest thing that we're looking at with this more so than anything is, what's he going to do with it, or how far does he really want me to take this? That's that's always the magical question too. I know he wants me to get it in there. He wants me to get everything up and fully functional. And then at that point, um, I don't know what he has envisioned for this, beyond that point. So, you know, the only thing that I'm here to do on this is just get everything stretched out, get everything mounted, get everything in a good, fully functioning working order. That's the goal that I have. Is to have it all in a functioning order and have everything mounted. Um, he didn't have anything labeled at the start of this. Which, like I said, that's what I did whenever I went ahead and started pulling the rest of those controls out. Is based off of what I seen with the controls and what they were. Um, that's how I went ahead and went about pulling what I did out. So, come on, let go. Okay, gray wire. But yeah, something like this is something that I normally try to do during my slow times. Unfortunately, this year I haven't seen any real slow time. So that's what really makes this more of a challenging project, is because, like I said, I don't have what I call any slow time right now. I haven't, I haven't seen slow time in 2 years. Um, I actually have enough. I have enough work that I could actually put somebody to work in here full time. Um, you know, with everything that people keep calling and wanting me to work on or to take in. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's his numbers. Yeah, he's got some. I mean, he's, especially when it comes to the antenna side of this, he is really on top of things. Um, as far as locally, I mean, he's been a great person to get to know. Um, like I said, I think that when it comes to antennas and stuff, I wished I could get him a little more involved in my Facebook group. The other side of that too is, we've got all the different people that are also, in there. And I've been trying to figure out, better ways and better methods of, uh, working with Facebook. I've kind of got away from doing a lot of my live feeds on Facebook. And part of that has to do with trying to grow YouTube. Um, Facebook has actually made it a little more difficult actually to do videos per se. Not that it's all that bad, but it's easier for me actually to do the YouTube thing. Um, Plus, I mean, almost everybody does YouTube versus Facebook. I know that there's actually a few customers that I have here that they don't do, they don't participate in Facebook or primarily any type of social media, and a lot of it's the fact that they just don't want the drama. That's probably the biggest thing right there is they don't want the drama, so they don't even do it. Matter of fact, there was quite a few things that had happened over the election, over this election and the presidency and what have you. And due to that, there are a few different customers that have done away completely, with their Facebook account, and they solely do YouTube. Um, Three Made, that's kind of one of the things that he did as well. Is he doesn't do anything with Facebook. He doesn't even have a Facebook account anymore. He went ahead and just completely deleted it, and a lot of it had to do with frustrations that he saw. Um, it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. People have their reasons behind it, but I've still got it, and I'd like to try to get more people involved. As far as I look at some of the conversations that we got going on with BBI and his group, and that's the biggest thing is just always trying to find a new topic, to keep things going. I try to post at least something every week in the group. I'd love to have as many people on YouTube as what I do on Facebook. That would be flipping awesome. Well, and like I said, that's kind of the thing. That's kind of the trend that I've seen in the last year and a half, and that's the reason why you don't see me actually doing a lot with that. I've noticed that even though I've still got big numbers on Facebook, um, I don't have the interaction with the people. I wished I did. That I have right here on YouTube with you guys. So, and that's actually quite important, especially whenever you're trying to sit there and find different things to talk about where you're working along. Because I mean, I could explain everything from the differences in the colors of resistors and what have you, and we could get into the whole humdrum and trying to think of that one guy that was just he did the Visine commercial from back in our younger years. That you wind up with some of the droning talking that he typically did, and that's what actually made him popular, obviously. But at the same token, I don't want to be that guy. So, I enjoy when you guys get in there and talk back and forth and talk to me, ask questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find you an answer. I don't know I don't know everything by any stretch of the imagination, I'll tell you that. Dirty armpit in Florida. uh, well, thank God you're not Dirty Diaper. That still just kills me. Yeah, that one guy many years ago, and that's actually what he went by was Dirty Diaper. And this has been, like I said, this has been many years ago. And it's like, really? Really? You couldn't think of a better handle? And there's the last of the black. It's okay, I got a brand new roll there. I'll put it on later. And one thing's for sure, and two's for certain, it'll be a whole lot easier to figure out what's going on with this crazy thing when I'm done. But yeah, Big L, he's got, like I said, he's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to the whole antenna thing. You know, that's one of the biggest things that I wished I had more knowledge in.
Well, I like the AM and I also like the sideband. But yeah, I'm the same way, Gary. I'm on AM more than I am on sideband. You know, not that I have anything against it, because like I said, I actually enjoy it. Um, under the right conditions, anyways. Dallas, if your local channel's 28, that's what I typically run. I mean, I know that late at night I'll go down to 23, but during the day, usually when I'm in the shop here, usually I've got it on. Of course, today I didn't. I was so focused on trying to get everything put into the main cabinet of that power supply, so I could clear off my workbench to have a place to work, that I didn't even think about it. Where am I at? I am in South Central Indiana, better known as the Crossroads of America. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying before, but that's kind of an old Hoosier thing, as far as being in the Crossroads of America. Okay, there's that section completely done. Where are you at, Dallas? Oh, you're in Manchester. Okay. But yeah, if you go through Indiana, if you know where the Speedway is, you're going to take I-65 straight north. I'm about 20 miles off of I-65. I'm approximately 48 miles from, what is that? 48 miles from Churchill Downs. In Manchester, from Manchester to my doorstep, under normal circumstances, is about roughly about 5.5 hours. It's late enough. I think I'm gonna have a beer, root beer. So you can talk a long way, my butt. You've got people bitching because you're running a 2-pill.
But I mean, I know, as you've said before, though, too, I know that the majority of the people that are in your area over there, Charles, I mean, I know they, the majority of them actually run setups that I've built at some point. Hey, speaking of which, how's Lee getting along? Geographically challenged. Well, the actual town that I live in is called Valonia. Vallonia. Valonia. Population of about 279, and we do count the cows for the high population level. But I have lived in this small, sleepy little town for let's see, well, 8, 9, 10. So 38 years. Yeah, 38 out of the 48 that I've been alive. At least I've owned property here. I mean, even though I was out west for a couple of years, but I mean, this is still home. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 wires left, one of which is going to that meter. I'm not too worried about that, but I do want to get that. However, they've got that switched around. I know this is going to be changed eventually, so I'm not too concerned about this little meter right at the moment. Worry about that whenever I get everything else all in place. I'm just going to leave it hooked up, but I want to get it untangled from all the other mess. But probably the biggest town Dallas. And this goes back to I-65. The biggest town to me would be Seymour, Indiana. Well, my graduating class was almost 3 times your size, that I went to school at. But one town over from where I'm at, the year I graduated, I think they had 15 in their graduating class. So, like I said, I'm very familiar, with small town life. And we do have some areas around here that, they do have to pump sunshine back into. Okay. Figure out which way I want to go on this next. I am not looking forward to these switches. Not in any way. Like you, we do have areas that where we've got chickens and the hoot owls that they're cousins, whatever that's worth to you. This emptied out of the way. Give me a second, guys. I'm gonna step outside here real quick. All right, I'm back. Let's see here.
15,000. That's actually even smaller than Seymour. Seymour's about 20,000. That's what they say, but we've got a lot of immigration that I don't think is accounted for. So roughly that's going to sit there. Clarifier is going to be up here. Okay. Let's grab a red wire. This one will actually be one of the first enjoyable ones to do out of all this. It just unplugs. But I know Big L will be happy that we've started on his little project here. All right, so red, green, yellow. So we need a green and a yellow. We need orange, black, and brown. Orange, black, and brown. I wonder if this black piece here is long enough. Yep. Yeah, I don't use on these rolls of these spools of wire very often anymore, but I still like having them here. Visiting vacation. Hmm.
Well, I would love to get back to as far as on the second shift, anyways. I wish it wasn't. I wish it was like 5 to 1:30. I get theoretically, anyways. I get one day a week that I get to take a short day and just work 8 hours. Um, that hasn't happened in a month. Wished it did. Right now we're so short-handed. Of course, they keep trying to convince me that it's better now than it's ever been, and you get more help, and da 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 da. And I'm not saying that may or may not be the case, but figuring out who's closer to who, huh? Yeah, there's times though I've heard Manchester come in here in Indiana. I think we're closer to about 500 from, I think it's around 500 from here to Manchester. I might have to turn the air on a little bit. It's getting kind of stuffy in here again. It's not been as bad though since I put the LED lighting in here instead of the incandescent the fluorescent bulbs. It's been a whole lot more comfortable during the summer, anyways. During the winter, it's still cold. But this is a lot like talking skip if you stop and think about it, guys. You know, now granted, we'll have to read the comments and everything, but you know, being right here on YouTube, it's kind of like shooting skip. We're all gathered together and talking back and forth. Charles, you talk in your sleep, buddy. It's still a little warm. Of course, the other day you went to bed early on me. Where you're only working those measly 8 hours. Here I needed somebody to help keep me awake, and you were in there sawing logs. I gotta read and get caught up here. Across the water. Well, as far as on the antenna, I can tell you what he's got. He's got a Mr. Coily, which now I've got two different antennas over here. I've used them both, and receive wise, I think the Mr. Coily actually does better, at least for me. I've got Mr. Coily that I've got up in the air right now, and then I've got a shockwave that I actually took down. There's nothing wrong with the antenna, but where I was having so many issues with trying to hear different people and what have you, and then I had some coax issues. I just said screw it, and I went ahead and got another antenna. And once I did that, and I got a few more things squared away, it actually made a huge difference. You're so full of yourself, Charles. It ain't even funny, buddy. You are so full of it. I don't know where in the hell you get Cobra 25. You haven't seen a Cobra 25 for Sadat blasted long, Charles. I don't even think you even know what a 25 even looks like. Well, it's okay, buddy. There's plenty of videos out there that you can always text me. You can get it in there. But you can always text me at that number right there. You may have to wait for you may have to wait for me to reply, but you're welcome to text me at that number anytime. Good deal. I think that's got all of them. I can hit this red one more time. Yeah, I'll probably wind up sleeping in tomorrow. I've got to get some bills taken care of though. There won't be any work going on out here in the shop tomorrow whenever I'm out here. Other than, like I said, I'm just gonna go through some bills and get some of that stuff taken care of. Since it is the first of the month, I've got most of my stuff all set up for that, except for my phone. It I get it paid on the 17th. But I got to pay the electric and the water for sure. If I don't pay the electric, we'll all be in trouble. No videos. Well, for those of you that are getting out of there, I guess I'll see you on the next clip. Ooh, that's warm. But yes, I am calling bull on your Barefoot 25. I've seen Christmas turkeys that wasn't as full as what you are. Yeah. Trim on that one here. Yeah, you got to remember, Charles, I've set up most all your radios for you, buddy. So I know what you got. Okay. This one slid up here. Okay. Yeah, I was going to try to get a coax jumper made up too. I've got one of those I've got to ship out here hopefully by the end of the week. Okay. That one was the easiest one yet. Not that I'm complaining. Not by no means. One more zip tie. There we go. All right. Worried about plugging that one in because, well, we got plenty still to do. That's the one I'm not looking forward to. I know that goes over to the frequency counter, but yeah, that's going to be interesting. So I might have to take a little bit more apart before I get in there. Now, the Galaxy 88 used to be one of my favorite radios. Even though it didn't have variable power, that's probably the only thing about the Galaxy 88 I didn't like back whenever they first came out. Let's see if we can't get this unplugged here real quick. Hope I can kind of see what we're going to get into. Set that off to the side. One of the things I'm thinking, that's what I was kind of hoping with, since this is one of the newer versions. Thinking I'm going to be able to get by with just changing out the lengths of these right here on the frequency counter, and then that way I can just take and remote the entire process on this. So that's really what I'm after. Besides trying to untangle some of this. Okay. I've got some of the mess untangled. All right, what am I missing out on here? Good luck with that, Gary. Yeah, I've had a few more people that's been after me trying to get me to start in on the steel, and like I said, I got to get all this other stuff caught up before I even consider that. My God, you're talking a whole nother fashion of building. Yeah, actually, there is a couple of different things you can do. I'm sure what you're referring to is probably your, well,
you've actually got two different things that's going on between the Galaxy and the 955. One of which, the Striker 955 naturally has a wider band receive as far as on the frequency that it's actually able to administer, I should say. That's part of the difference as far as between the Galaxy and the Striker. The other thing that you're going to get into is the way the setup is on it, as far as on the circuitry itself. There's actually a couple of other capacitors that can be changed in order to go ahead and increase the overall receive, as far as essentially it makes it a little bit more like a preamp almost. It's not necessarily a preamp, but it's where it actually confines what's coming in off of your antenna and going through your first and second mixers in the radio. It's one of the things that will actually help as far as to get you that little extra receive that you're kind of used to out of the Striker 955. Okay, now that one I'm not familiar with. That's one that I'd probably have to look up. I've not seen anybody, list that as far as a high cut mod. But at the same token, I mean, I've been concentrating primarily this year to amplifiers is what I've actually been concentrating on more so than anything. This is, I'm sitting there looking at it on the video. It looks like a train wreck. This is not something I typically do every day. I've done radios for many, many years. And then the amplifiers kind of as a secondary. And I've kind of flip-flopped where I do more amps and power supplies. However, I still do quite a bit with radios as a whole. But there are some different modifications that can be done. Like I said, in some cases, which I can't tell you off the top of my head, if I had the radio in front of me, I possibly could. There is also a capacitor. I don't think it's a 0.1. I'm thinking it's like a 0.01. Now you can also take that completely out of the circuit, and that also brings up there again. It's part of the high fidelity system, and it's just it's not necessarily a limiter, but it's supposed to help reduce the static. But that can actually be changed, is typically what I do. Like I said, I think it's like a 0.01, and I think I change it out to like 100 puff. And the only reason why is that way it doesn't let everything come in, but it still skims the top of the noise level off and allows a little bit more receive to come in. Yeah, that does do that. Yeah, right now, as far as radio wise, sadly, unless it's actually a new setup with an amplifier, right now I'm not taking any more radios until actually the first of the year. I've got 3 cases of radios
I kid you not, I literally have 3 cases of radios that customers have sent me. Um, and I literally can't take any more in right now. If you guys would see my front room, yeah, it's a good thing that I'm single. That's that's the best way I can put it. Because the shop right now is still overflowing, and I've been actually storing stuff in the living room, and I've got an upstairs also that I use for um, storing a lot of empty cabinets and things like that, as far as some of the larger parts. And I've just not had. I could spend at least 2 days just going through all that stuff and trying to get things reorganized for that. And I'd still have my whole living room full like it is now. But especially with right now, because I ordered in some custom made cases, um, which should have been on yesterday's. I think it was yesterday's video that I sit there and had done a thank you to uh, some of the different people that I order from and what have you. But also to introduce 2 new cabinets that I had custom made. It took about 5 or 6 weeks for me to actually get from placing the order to having them created. You know, um, with all the cutouts, and then I had the faces all laser engraved. Um, just very, very high quality cabinets. Um, Sadly they did cost, but hopefully everybody will enjoy those, and I'll be able to put back some extra money and buy another buy another round of them. But yeah, probably like I said, in January or February, I'll probably open up the doors again as far as to take some more radios actually in. Um, like I said, it's just I work, on my long weeks I work about 96 hours at my other job, and then on my short week, which is the week that we're in right now, I work about 62 hours at my other job, and then I come in here and I work at least an hour a day as far as on my long week, and then on my short week like this. Um, let's see, 12. Let's see. Let's see, 12, 13, 14. Right now we're going on the 15 hours tonight, just here in the shop. So tonight was a 15-hour night. Yesterday was only a 10-hour night. The only reason why it was as short as what it was, I actually had some company that had come in from out of state that I haven't seen in a very long time. So we got together and went out for some dinner, and just had a chit chat and stuff before they go back. But, normally I put in 25, 30 hours as far as on the weekend, and then another 5 to 7 hours through the week on my short week. So I spend 25 to 35 hours out here on my short week. So yeah, a lot of hours spent working. Yeah. If you've got some of the equipment, a lot of it, which there again, you're going to be able to find a tech, a number here on some of the different videos and stuff where you can text me. If you can text me, it may take a day or so for me to be able to get back with you, depending on what time of the day it is and what the question is. Because now on some of it, I'll have to actually go back through some of the notes. Some of it I can pull off the top of my head. Some of it I actually have to just look at the chassis to be able to tell you. but I do have a lot of notes that I have that I can go back and pull a reference out of and give you some pointers in relationship to uh, maybe what to try. If you've got one of the newer versions of Galaxies, one of the nice things about that is the fact that they have already changed out the diodes in there for the Scotty diode upgrade. Now, I can tell you that on the Scotty diode upgrade, even if they've got it done in there, um, you have two diodes that are going to be, for example, if it's envision this as being a complete radio, where this is the face. Uh, you're going to have two that are going to be about midsection of the radio. They're going to be on the right hand side as you're looking down on the component side. There's going to be two diodes in there, one of which is going to be all the way to the right. One's facing towards the front and the other one's facing towards the back. The one that is all the way to the right, if you lift that leg up, you can actually, typically you can get by with lifting that leg up, and you can put about a 100 ohm resistor in line with that diode, and that will also change as far as on the receive. Like I said, there is another capacitor in there as well. I'd have to know which chassis you've got as to be able to tell you which capacitor it is. There is a disc capacitor that you don't change it, but about five puff is all the variation that you really want to change it. You can go up a little more, but then you start running into some other issues. But there is one that you just change by approximately 5 to 7 puff, and that actually adds about 1.5 dBs to your receive. So, it's well worth doing. But all right, Charles, if you're having a good night, if you're getting out of there, buddy, because I'm actually winding down, and I've actually hit the stopping point for where I'm at since it's 5:30. I need to eat me a small snack, take my night medicines, and go from there. So, but thinking about a 955. Get it yet? Just converted. Peak and tune. Yep. Yeah. On the 955, you don't have to do a whole lot as far as that goes. The 955, I love all the bells and whistles that they've got. The other two radios, one of which has very, very few frills and flowers that I really like. Especially if you like getting into the sideband portion of it, which is the Ranger RCI 2950. That's one that I have really enjoyed for the last 20 years. Another good one that I got to play with my first one a little over a year ago, and I actually own one and have it actually on the workbench. I use it for tuning and some of the other things, which is the President Lincoln 2. Now it is the President Lincoln 2 Plus, which means that it is the third revision. Since they've done that, you've got, just like anything else right now, you're going into so many radios now are menu driven, and that's the only thing that I get it, but I don't like it. As far as the menu driven, just because of the fact that there's so many different variations of radios that I have to try to remember. So that sometimes gets confusing to me. But the President Lincoln 2, even though it doesn't have quite the output power that the 955 has, is definitely one that I would consider, especially if you're going to put an amplifier in there. You can
easily run. You can easily run a lot of different radios, especially like a small one. Another one, with the 955 though, depending on what you decide to do, you could actually run it into straight into a 4-pill as well, if you have the modifications done to it. Um, Granted, your 4-pill will just sit there and loaf, but it'll last you a long time. You're still going to get somewhere around 700, 750 on the PEP. I've been seeing roughly around 300 bird out of a 2879 box with the 955. So again, it's pretty pretty viable radio depending on what your end game is. All right, guys, it's been a great time here. We've spent going on almost 4 hours here on the workbench, but like I said, I'm going to set this project off to the side, and I will work on it a little bit more probably towards the end of the week. I've got a jumper I've got to make for one guy, and I got to get Charles's radio also on the bench. So I'm going to try to get to his also before the end of the week and get him all taken care of. And that's one of the things we're going to be doing to it is a upgrade on the regulator. We're going to do a couple other things to it as far as wideband out that receive a little bit more. That's something that he enjoys, as well as all the power mods and all that good stuff. But guys, it's been great having you on here. Like I said, I've enjoyed chatting with all of you, but I do need to get some rest. Still got laundry I got to get started and refill all my medications for next week. So, all right, everybody, you take care. Have a blessed week, and we will catch you on the next feed. Thanks again for popping in.